People like to speak of morality as if it were born in a moment of clarity, as if humanity suddenly understood what was good, what was noble, what was worthy. But morality, when you look at its earliest traces, begins elsewhere. It begins in fear. Not the violent kind, but a quieter fear. The fear of being small, of being powerless, of being forgotten in a world that rewards the bold. As Ernest Becker argues, human beings create moral systems partly to soothe their terror of insignificance. Much of what we call virtue is simply an attempt to protect ourselves from that feeling. Once, when people spoke of goodness, they meant strength, vitality, courage, the willingness to live without disguises. But those who could not meet that standard quietly changed the meaning. As Friedrich Nietzsche suggests, it is like a flock of lambs looking at birds of prey. Unable to soar, they declare the sky immoral. Unable to strike, they describe striking as wicked. When rising feels impossible, people call rising arrogant and staying low humble. Morality shifts, not because someone discovered truth, but because someone needed protection. Inside, every person lives a fear that is rarely acknowledged, the fear that we are smaller than we hoped to be, that we have not become what we once imagined. Rather than confront this fear directly, we soften it. We call our shrinking modesty, our hesitation humility, our self-erasure wisdom. Becker explains that people build hero systems, moral narratives in which they become good, righteous, noble, so they never have to face the possibility that their lives feel ordinary. These narratives are not strength. They are comfort dressed as principle. When someone feels unable to express their desires or assert themselves, resentment begins to form. Not the kind that erupts suddenly, but the kind that learns to speak gently. It grows clever. It grows moral. Nietzsche names this resentment, a resentment that cannot act, so it judges. It says, confidence is arrogance, ambition is selfish, independence is rebellion. But these judgments reveal less about the people being judged and more about those who fear seeing their own limitations reflected in someone else's strength. History offers its own illustration. Entire classes of people once held no physical or political power, yet they ruled through moral authority. They transformed obedience into purity and strength into sin, turning guilt into their instrument. By moralizing their weakness, they gained influence over those who were stronger but less agile in the realm of conscience. It is a reminder that weakness, when moralized, becomes a subtle form of domination. Strength, by contrast, unsettles people not because it harms them, but because it forces comparison. A strong person need not speak to disrupt a room. Their presence alone wakes something in others that had long been sleeping. This is why ambition becomes suspect, confidence becomes threatening, self-direction becomes defiance. People do not fear the strong. They fear the truths that strong people make visible. As Erich Fromm observes, freedom itself frightens people because it demands responsibility, and so they cling to moral structures that allow them to remain safely unchallenged. You can hear weak morality in ordinary advice. Don't reach too far. Be careful not to stand out. People won't like you if you're too confident. These phrases sound cautious, even kind, but they often mask a personal confession. Your courage reminds me of what I avoid. Crowds magnify this further. As Gustave Le Bon notes, crowds instinctively punish individuality. The moment someone rises above the shared level, the crowd moves to pull them back down. Not out of justice, but out of discomfort. Many people perform morality the way some men perform kindness. As Robert Glover describes, they call themselves generous, patient, agreeable. But underneath lies fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of revealing their true desires. Their goodness is less a principle than a shield, a strategy to avoid being wounded. It is morality as emotional armor. Most of us inherit these moral habits. Families, cultures, traditions pass them down as though they were universal truths. But beneath the surface, they often originated from someone else's fear, someone who moralized their caution, their wounds, their limits. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that nothing can diminish us unless we consent. Yet entire generations have been taught to consent automatically, to shrink before being asked. And when you stop shrinking, even quietly, the world reacts. When you speak clearly, you are told you've become harsh. When you pursue something deeply, you are labeled selfish. When you stop apologizing for your presence, people say you've changed. But these reactions reveal less about your transformation and more about the moral comfort others derived from your smallness. Your growth exposes what they have carefully hidden from themselves. Real strength does not require domination. It does not seek applause. It simply refuses to lie, especially the lies we tell ourselves to make others comfortable. A strong morality is not one that keeps you obedient. It is one that keeps you honest. It demands that you face your desires without shame, your limits without disguise, your potential without apology. It asks that you live at the height your life quietly demands, even when that height disrupts the order others have grown accustomed to. Here is a truth worth carrying softly. Those who fear your strength will always teach you a morality that keeps you weak, and those who depend on your smallness will always interpret your growth as betrayal. Before you follow any rule, pause long enough to ask, does this make me smaller, or does it make me more truthful? The answer will reveal whether the morality belongs to you or to the long chain of fears you inherited. Perhaps real morality begins the moment you decide to step out of the cage that was built before you were born. The moment you stop shrinking, stop apologizing, and allow yourself to occupy the full measure of your existence, even when the world prefers you small. Thanks for being here. Let's keep learning together. Follow Quiet Arcadia for the next one.